Good morning and welcome to the Pumped on Property Show podcast. Now, it's been a little while since I've done an actual podcast. I apologize. I've been ripping off some of the videos from YouTube at the moment and sticking them up there. So welcome back. If the sound isn't unbelievable or amazing today, it's because I'm driving in the car. I'm going down to Brizzy to meet one of my favorite clients, Rory. He's just bought his second property with us. So today's video is going to be all about habits that have changed my life. Now, the reason for this video today, and it's just been with you in the car, is really the result of listening to some audio that my brother Simon, who's my business partner, sent to me recently. Now, Simon sent me this video or a podcast from Tony Robbins where he talked about fear, and it really just sort of sparked up a whole lot of stuff in me that, you know, I wanted to share with you guys that isn't commonly talked about in this space, isn't the sort of norm in this space, and certainly, you know, are some of the insider tricks and tips to sort of maintaining a much higher quality life, succeeding in business, succeeding in relationships, succeeding in your health. So it's a bit like me sort of getting right back to basics now. I'm going to talk about some of the things that have enabled me to succeed in my life, and hopefully you can throw some of them out, obviously, because I talk a lot of smack, but also take some of them on board if they're relevant for you. So what I loved about what Tony said is that success leaves clues, and that he knew from a very, very early age that if he was to surround himself with successful people, whether that's spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, or from a financial or business perspective, that success would leave clues. And if he could learn from those things, he would be in a much, much better position. So I suppose from my perspective, the biggest thing that has happened since I talked about this sort of stuff online is that I feel like I've overcome a big chunk of my anxiety. Now, I know some of you out there listening to this will still be feeling very anxious. Maybe you've had bouts of anxiety or depression, or maybe you're feeling extremely depressed right now. And I'm sorry for that, and my heart goes out to you, and I empathize with you because I understand that stickiness and that heaviness that you're in right now. But what I did want to say is that over the last year and a half, I've really stood in that awkwardness, I've stood in that uncomfortableness, and I've completely transformed my life for the better, so that now I'm just not successful on paper financially, but I've actually got my shit together in other areas of my life, which for a long time I don't feel like I did. So let's talk about things that are working for me at the moment that could be tips and tricks or habits that you can take on board. Now, the first thing is understanding what you truly value in life. Talking to my psychologist, Zach, who's absolutely amazing, we talk a lot about values and uncovering what's truly important to you as opposed to what you think is important. And this is one habit that has completely transformed my life. So I now understand that I value my family. I value my mental, physical, spiritual, emotional health. I value contributing to other people. And I also value learning, growing, developing, adding value through businesses. And I freaking love financial freedom choices, and I love, you know, working on things like that from a property perspective. So, you know, if I was to simplify everything I just said, it really comes down to three simple values: my family, my health, and family is relationships in my life, friends, colleagues, things like that as well. And then effectively what I would call wealth creation, which is that other big box, or financial freedom. Now that I understand that these are the things that I value, the next part after understanding what they were is beginning to live them on a daily basis, because a lot of people, myself included, feel twisted. You know that gut feeling you have when you're not 100% right, but you don't really know why. You know, maybe the job or your boss doesn't make you feel right. Maybe you're training, but instead of feeling good and mobile and healthy, you're doing something that is actually making your body feel worse over time. You know, maybe in a relationship, I'm not going to say break up or anything like that, because I believe in working through it. And my wife, Lisa, and I have definitely gone through our fair share of shit and hard times. But maybe there's relationships around you in your life, you know, friendships that were really just a seasonal friendship as opposed to a lifetime friendship, but you're holding on to it and that person's constantly bringing you down, or maybe that's your partner, or maybe that's, you know, a close relationship in your life with immediate family. But, you know, what he's taught me is that living your values day to day is who you become, and living your values day to day is the shortest way to, and the fastest way to actually create happiness, fulfillment, presence, and a life that's worth living and meaningful for you. So again, regardless of how you're feeling now, and I can guarantee I've felt as bad or even worse, you know, I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone for literally a whole year. I was scared of absolutely everything. I was scared of the market crashing. I was scared of lights turning on and off on the street lights. Like, I was like really in my own head for a little while here. And I put this out to show you, like, that shit's not normal, you know what I mean? But that's how I was feeling. And regardless of how you're feeling, and regardless of the stories going around in your head, like maybe you feel like you're not good enough in your job, or maybe you feel like you're not far enough towards financial freedom, or maybe your health has suffered, or maybe you're not feeling like you're showing up in relationships in your life. But what I've learned is all of those are just stories. They're not who I am, and they're definitely not who you are. So if you can detach and create space, again, this is another habit, create space between your thoughts and who you truly are, and begin to create presence in your life and find yourself, far out, man, everything can change when you have moments of clarity which aren't filled by that mind that is constantly beating yourself up. Now, a good friend of mine and a client who's bought a couple of properties with us now, Davo from Sydney, sent me a book recently, which was so epic, bro. Thank you so much. Like, I love when I receive something from someone or give something to someone that's changed my life or changed theirs. And it was called The Untethered Soul. And in this book, they talked about that chatter in your mind. Now, this is another habit that all successful people have come to grips with. Everybody has that voice in their mind, and sometimes that voice is awesome and your best mate and helping you kick ass. And most of the time, that voice is picking you apart, picking the world apart, making you scared, making you anxious, making you depressed, and taking you away from this present moment and getting you to live, or me to live, in the future or the past, which the past is called depression, the future is called anxiety. So what I learned from this book, The Untethered Soul, is that let's just pretend that voice in your head on a bad day was actually a person in your life, but it wasn't a family member and it wasn't a best mate from forever ago. It was just a random person. Would you allow that person to be in your environment, constantly negative, constantly bringing you down, constantly making you fearful or anxious, or focusing on things that are outside of the moment that you can control, which is this one? Or would you be telling that person to get the F out of your life and take control of that situation, you know what I mean? And every now and then, particularly when we're younger, those types of people come into our life and we just don't tolerate them. But for some reason, we let that voice in our mind stay there and come around every single day with us, every single week with us, every single year with us. But is that voice in your mind allowing you to live your highest and best purpose? Is it allowing you to be your best version of yourself? And to be honest with you right now, I feel like I'm literally in this video, this podcast, living the best version of my life right now. This morning, you know, in terms of living my values with my family, I did some yoga. I danced around to some music. I then made like paper mache balloons with the kids that we're going to paint this afternoon into like witches' faces or vampire faces for Halloween. I then jumped in the pool, had a good chat with Lisa, and then went and did some Pilates. And that was all before 9 o'clock. And now it's time. I'm driving to Brizzy to go catch up with, again, one of my favorite clients of all time. And, you know, this is a choice. And what Zach talked about with me, my psychologist, was once you understand your values, and once you understand that that voice in your mind is no longer you, that you are a beautiful, full person that's supposed to be filled with love and supposed to have a great life, and that's just chatter from the old days of survival, and you can separate yourself, then all you need to do to find happiness and contentment in your life, according to Zach, and again, happiness is dangerous because it's so fleeting. More contentment is what I'm after, but make decisions towards my values. That's what I try and do now. So this morning I could have stayed in bed, but my wife sort of kicked me at 5:30 this morning and said, it's your turn with the kids. And my lizard brain went, F you, Lisa, you get up. And then I was like, no, you've been getting up heaps at the moment. I'm going to get up. I felt tired for about the first 15 minutes. And then I was up, I was into the day, and I got to live my values with my family this morning, which makes me so excited this afternoon to get home and continue on with that. So making decisions towards what you value. For me today, now I'm driving down to Brisbane, filming videos like this, which are my contribution, catching up with a client, which is how I'm helping myself achieve financial freedom, plus him. You know, getting to spend an epic day, having lunch, going and checking out some granny flats and some properties and just doing our thing. Speaking this afternoon with another 4 clients about amazing properties that we've found for them yesterday that we're going to talk about and inspect today. Hopefully a couple of those guys are excited about them as we are, and they actually get to buy them, and that changes their whole future. And then from a health perspective, you know, getting to do some yoga and some Pilates, as well as a mad chat with my dad this morning, like that is all decisions towards my values. Now, there's also decisions away from your values, and these are the decisions that are hardest to walk away from. Now, that's the next thing that I wanted to talk about in today's video, and that is things that I've let go now that I understand what's most important to me. And when I make a decision now, I think about, will this take me closer to what's going to make me happy and content and peaceful, or is it going to take me further away? Now, in the last year, the daily habits that I've built are yoga basically 6 or 7 days a week. And that's as simple as chucking on YouTube, finding an instructor that you enjoy and doing 10 to 20 minutes of that. That's all I do. You know, Pilates is another thing that's helped me massively because of so many years of isolation gym training and trying to look like super fit. It's sort of like threw my body out of alignment. And so Pilates has really helped me build all of those muscles like my core, inside my knees, as well as my ass. I've actually got a bit of an ass for the first time in my life, just a little one. But, you know, feeling good and moving that way, and that's become a habit. Another habit that I'm starting to create now is, this might sound super weird, but I've been actually putting my hand on my heart or on my head, and I'm just saying thank you for who I am, and I'm also sorry for any damage that I've caused to myself or that I will cause to myself in the future. Now, that's from my dad, and it's also from one of my best mates who, you can check him out on Instagram, Jackson J Fit. He's one of the most successful personal trainers in Australia, and he's one of my best mates. And he has been going through this thing because his dad left him at birth, basically, and his mum was an alcoholic until he was 12. So he's gone through like this really hard upbringing where he's got all sorts of abandonment issues that he's internalized. And even though I didn't go through the same thing, I had a beautiful family that loved me. I've still been beating myself up for the last 20 years, thinking that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy, that I'm not capable of succeeding long term, that I'm a good person or a bad person, and all those other stories. And I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of being so hard on myself. You know, you can be a high performer and you can achieve things in life, and you can also be loving and grateful. So I was listening to Denzel Washington the other day as well. He's got this morning ritual of doing this same thing, putting his hand on his heart or his hand on his face and saying, you know, you are love, you are light, you are peace, you are filled with compassion, your future's filled with those things. And I don't know, man, how I feel about it. I'll tell you in a few months and see if anything changes in my life. But geez, it takes the edges off on a hard day because it gets me back into my heart space as opposed to just constantly living in my head, which is where anxiety and where most people unfortunately spend all their time. So that's something. Another thing that I've been doing is getting myself into my observing self and my observing mind. Now, your thinking mind is the chatter in your head constantly. Your observing mind, and you could do this right now, is to look at your hand and feel the energy in your hand, feel the wind or the air temperature on your hand, touch your fingers, you know, thumb to the other fingers, feel that connection, feel the warmth in your hand, feel the texture in your hand, look at the lines in your hands and the marks in your hands. These are all things that are the observing mind. Instead of thinking about it, observe it. And so I've been beginning to observe nature. I've beginning to observe when it rains and how much beautiful everything looks. Now that it's springtime, I'm looking at the flowers, I'm listening to the birds, I'm listening to the ocean from my home, and these are all habits that completely have changed my life for the better. Now, other habits that I've started is I've basically stopped drinking completely at the moment. It's been about 4 months or 5 months now since I was actually drunk. And man, I had a good time last time I was drunk in Hobart with all the boys and my wife and all our friends. A real good time, actually. Probably too good of a time. We were down at the Mona Gallery in Hobart, which is owned by this super eccentric billionaire. We got on the boat at about 12 o'clock and just got daytime drunk. Sat in this bar just having cocktails for 3 or 4 hours, and then walked around the gallery completely cut for 3 or 4 hours and just had the best time, and then got back on the beers on the boat on the way home and had a really nice dinner that night. But while that was a good time, I paid for that for about 2 or 3 weeks in terms of my mental health. And so I've decided that for this stage of my life, drinking is no longer making me feel as good as it once did. And while I'm loving it in the moment, it's just not serving my highest and best self. So another habit is I've replaced drinking with drinking kombucha. Yeah, boring, man. Drinking tea, white tea and green tea, lemongrass tea with honey, man. That stuff gets me just as excited. And because I haven't drunk or got drunk for 4 months, I've actually lost that chemical association in my body with alcohol. So I no longer desire alcohol. I sometimes just feel like I'm missing out because I'm a FOMO on good times with my mates and my family. But, I wake up the next day feeling better and I'm straight back into it. Other habits in my life that have been helpful is definitely surfing. So I'm going along all the health stuff at the moment. I haven't cut sugar out of my life because I absolutely love it, but I've cut the sugar binges out and I've cut the massive overeating sessions on bad food. Like what I call bad food is foods that make me feel bad. So really, really highly processed stuff, really, really sugary stuff, really, really, really fatty stuff. The stuff that after you have heaps of it, you just feel heavy and sick. And I've replaced it with more fruit, more meats. My sisters would be hating me on that because they're both vegans, but more quality meats, organic stuff. Been shopping at the local farmers markets as well, which is a new habit in my life, that supporting local farmers that bring it fresh to the market and the quality is so much better. Just those little things. On top of that, outside of the surfing, as you guys know as well, I started boxing again about 4 or 5 months ago, just once a week, maybe twice a week. And I'm really enjoying learning something that I'm not trying to get better at. I'm just going through the motions, figuring it out as I go, like moving my body differently, having fun with it. And then I try and get a couple of weight sessions in a week as well. Last couple of days, I've gone for a ride and a climb to Mount Coolum, just things that make me feel good. Did some hill sprints as well. Like, I think about it, actually, I've done quite a bit of exercise this week. But that's cool. Like, I was just vibing on it, and now I'll chill out for the next few days until soccer tomorrow night. But yeah, so health's obviously a priority and a value for me. Some people who particularly have families or busy careers, myself included, like for 3 or 4 years, it was really not a priority. I was maybe doing 1 or 2 things a week, where now it's just become a daily ritual of movement, and it's making me feel better mentally, physically. It's allowing me to feel more connected to my family. And to be honest with you, like most people, particularly high performers like you and I, are pretty much most of the time just trying to hold our shit together and function in society normally. So I think it takes the edge off and the sharpness off my personality, and it allows me to be me a bit more, which is cool. Like, because I want to be the best version of myself, and I want to be the light, fun version, not the heavy, pissed off at everything version that's like hyper focused on succeeding. So it's okay to recognize that there's different parts of yourself that are positive and sometimes harder, and that's completely cool. But like taking the edge off some of these things and taking the pressure off yourself can be beautiful. So on top of that, that's sort of the health component. Now, in terms of living my values towards my family, which is so important, sort of getting up and spending or trying to spend some meaningful time with them some days before work. not all days, because obviously that's not possible. I have been working a bit harder than I would have liked to have been at the moment, just because my sister Crystal and my business partner's on maternity leave, and one of the other team members has just been going through a bit of personal stuff at the moment, so I've had to sort of step in and help them with their role a bit. But I'm really excited to say we are looking to recruit in the new year at least 2 new employees, and take another one full time. So I'm excited about that, but that has taken me a little bit away from my family. What I have put in place as habits which have changed my life with my family, though, is I no longer bring my phone into the home. I have a work phone and a home phone, and I leave my work phone at work. I literally leave it in the car or at work. I don't look at it outside of Monday to Thursday anymore unless I have to help a team member or a client with something on a Friday. That's helped me create separation. I don't have emails or personal, any work-related stuff on my personal phones, so I'm no longer getting triggered, because how many of us get triggered? How many of us bring our work home? How many of us allow it to interrupt our lives? The other thing that I've done for my family is I've disconnected from technology in a way. So turned all of the alerts off on my phones. I put all of my phones on silent with no vibration, no ringtones, absolutely nothing, which means, some of my mates don't like it because they can never reach me, and same with my family, but it means I can reach out to them in a time that's not distracting me and not keeping me on. Because what I learned from going through anxiety with my family is when I was super anxious or super wound up and carrying work home, I wasn't being my best version of myself. I wasn't being present with them. I wasn't being light with them. I wasn't being supportive with them and helping live their best version of their lives. So creating that space around technology so I'm not getting constantly triggered and thinking about things outside of my family when I'm there has been super helpful and completely changed my life. The other thing I've done for my family is we've just bought a caravan. This month or this weekend, we're heading up to Noosa with a couple of mates, 2 other couples with their kids, which will be sick. Just lots of family time Friday till Sunday. As you guys all know, I no longer work Fridays anymore unless I absolutely have to. So I've got 3 days a week with my kids. And I was explaining this to a person yesterday who I was having a strategy session with, which can't wait to work with you guys. You know who you are. And I was talking about the benefit of taking 3 days off a week versus just 2. Now, the benefit of that is obviously after a big week, particularly if you've got a family and a high-performing job, which every one of us does in one way or another. Generally if you finish on a Friday afternoon, it takes you till like halfway through Saturday to normalize and feel like yourself again. Then Sunday you're switched off in the morning, but by Sunday afternoon you're sort of winding up again. So you've really only had 24 hours of being yourself, where I find if I take Fridays off and Saturday, Sunday, by about 11 or 12 o'clock on a Friday, I've either gone to the gym, gone for a surf, dropped the kids at school, gone out for breakfast with my wife, or gone to the psychologist. And by like 10 or 11 o'clock, I'm feeling fully myself again and chilled out, which means I have all afternoon, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to recharge, reflect, to become present, to be soft and kind on myself, and to rejuvenate for the week ahead. And that has been so powerful for me. It has been life-changing for me. Now, any of you that are sitting out there saying that you can't do that, in the last 2 years since I've taken Fridays off, I've bought or built 4 or 5 properties. I've started 3 businesses, plus running my current business. I've got my 3 children at home. I've trained. I've gone through this mental breakdown and come out the other side with anxiety. I've spent bulk time with my family. I've taken 6 weeks off a year. I've taken the Fridays off. And I've managed to bring on 100 to 150 clients per year into the business. For those of you sitting there saying that you can't take Fridays off right now, particularly those of you working for yourself, it's just a story that you've created. For those of you who haven't already read the 4-Hour Work Week, read it, and it can transform the way that you think about full-time work. If you're working full-time and grinding your ass away, unless you're making more than $200,000 a year, there's probably no expectation for you to be working that way. And you can probably slowly over time begin to introduce 4.5 days into your week, picking up an extra half an hour on the other days maybe, or over time, work towards 4 days off. Now, not everyone wants to do that. I completely understand it. But if you have that opportunity, it'll completely transform your life for the better. It's been very, very powerful for me with my family because I'm getting way more meaningful time, which makes me feel better as well. Now, the last thing for me, which is a value, is work, contribution, choices, and creating financial freedom. And I put that all around the wealth category for me. Like I said, I've been up to a fair bit in the last few years, which is probably why I ended up pretty anxious. Not just the last few years, the last 10, but I've really got a clear plan now in place. And I don't think about that plan often. What I do is I make time, like Oprah and Eckhart Tolle said, make time to plan for your future, then get straight back into the present and make it happen. And I think that's what I've been getting better and better at. I know what I want to do with my business. I know what I want to do with my holiday accommodation business. I know what I wanted to do with my property management business, which was sell it recently. I know what I want to do with my current investment properties that are more the insurance policy stuff, set and forget, which for me will end up looking like 3 or 4 dual income properties, hopefully paid out for outright at some point down in the future. So for me, living my values means showing up the best version of myself, which being, living my family values and health values help with that massively to keep me in flow state. But being the best version of myself, learning, growing, adding value to people's lives through things like this video, and getting to help amazing people. Like, one of the most beautiful things that I did in the business, which is so counterintuitive, was to go from taking on 15 clients every month to taking on 6 or 7 a month. Now, you think about that for a moment. That was $100,000 a month of pure profit in my business that I've decided to walk away from. But I fucking love it because no one else is prepared to make those hard decisions and choose what they want. But 15 people a month was stressing me out. 7 people a month is absolutely beautiful, especially when 15 to 20 people a month still want to pay us and we're selecting only the best people to work with. And the best people are people that think like you and me, that want to achieve financial freedom, but don't want to bust their ass for 35 years to do it, and that want to live a beautiful, balanced, present life all the way through. So, that's sort of some of the habits that have helped me recently. Now, you could call them habits, you could call them mindset, you could call them whatever. And I truly believe that the more you have, the more you have to give. Now, I'm working with such a beautiful client called Emily from Melbourne at the moment, just helping her build her first dual income property in Queensland, but she already owns property in Melbourne and Airbnb in Byron. Hey, Emily, if you're listening to this, although I know that you run a multi-million-dollar business as well, so you're probably busy hustling right now. But on her email footer, she's got this beautiful line, which is, it takes something like 30 muscles to smile and 42 muscles to frown. So you may as well keep smiling because it's easier. She sent me a message the other day going, "Thank you so much, Ben. You've completely helped me get clear on what I want to achieve financially outside of my businesses. And I just wanted to say thank you. Life's going well outside of the normal bumps and bruises you get from having a crack." Smiley face, love hearts. And I'm just like, anyone that actually gets in the arena and wants to have a go, like Winston Churchill says, is going to end up bruised and battered. But if you are living a life based on your values and your purpose, and you're actually having a go and you're confronting your fear, everything will change for you. Now, back to where we started off with the Tony Robbins thing that my brother Simon and business partner sent through to me this week, which has completely changed my life, is that he talked about 2 things that all successful people do. Now, the first thing is they focus on what they have more than they focus on what they want or what they don't have in their life. Now, think about every epic, positive person that you know, like me and you, high five, man, or woman. We're kicking ass. Like, even the fact that you're still on board with this conversation means that we're all moving forward in terms of the direction of all of this stuff that I've been talking about. And, like I said, maybe right now you're feeling anxious or depressed, and that's cool. Just sit in that uncomfortable moment, it will pass. But Tony said that all successful people focus more on what they have and gratitude for those things, as opposed to what they want or what they don't have in their lives. So think about every person like you and I that you know, that you're stoked that you want to spend your time with, because every time you're with them, they're adding value to your life, and they're just filled with this energy and this purpose and this lightness and this fuck yeah, let's go and get it type attitude. I've been watching a lot of rhythm and rhyme on YouTube at the moment. It's like a rap show with T.I. and Cardi B and Chance the Rapper, and it is awesome. And you're going to hear my language change now, because these kids from the ghetto are just like, let's get it. Like, they've got nothing. They're sleeping on lounges. They can hardly afford to eat. But they're like, it's our time. It's my time. And I'm going to go get it. And I feel like myself again. Like, I feel like, why not have a crack? Why not spend more meaningful time with the people you care about? Why not look after your health better? Why not try and, make decisions towards your values? Why not appreciate what you have? Because by appreciating what you already have means that you're not living in a fear or an anxiety or a depressed or a what I don't have mindset, a lack mindset, and you're filled with abundance, and you're filled with the beauty that comes with that, and you're filled with attracting people that feel that same way and that are on that same energetic frequency. And man, I just want to work with those people. Like, if you're one of those people and you want some support with achieving financial freedom, getting a good property plan in place, getting deeply educated in the market and kicking some ass, then I'm your dude. Like, I am the guy that you need to work with if you are vibing on everything I'm talking about. And whether that's now or in 10 years' time when you're ready to talk to us, just keep us in the back of your pocket so that you can come back around and we can help you not just feel this way and have another person in your life that's vibing that you can become mates with, but we actually have the skill set and the tool set after buying $250 million worth of property to absolutely smash it for you in terms of results as well. And I feel good, man. I feel confident about that stuff. But, making decisions towards the values, focusing on what you have rather than what you don't have, for some reason attracts good stuff. Being grateful, thinking about what it is that you want. Now, the other thing that Tony said that all successful people do, and success isn't just about money. Success actually have nothing to do with money. In fact, people that are stressed out and successful with big egos and big pain bodies and big bullshit going on just isn't attractive to me in any way. What is successful is someone who is confident in themselves because they've done the work on themselves to feel that way. Someone that's successful to me is someone that loves their partner or is finding a beautiful partner that aligns with them. Someone that's successful to me is someone that looks after their mental, physical, spiritual self. Someone that's successful to me, it doesn't matter what you're doing or how much you're earning, it's how you're showing up while you're doing that. That is success to me. And by being that type of person, money is just the same as anything else. It comes in so easily if you have the right skills, if you're prepared to do the work, and you're disciplined and that you realize it's a 15 to 20 year game, not a 1 year game, which so many people play. But the second thing that Tony said that all successful people have in common is they live in the moment, and sometimes they have to live in the future because they need to plan the future and they need to visualize the future that they want. Because you can't get to where you want to be if you don't know where the hell you're going. And as Jim Rohn always says, it's the set of the sails that determines your destination, not the blowing of the wind. It's the set of the sails, meaning you deciding where you want to be and then tweaking it as you go, that determines where you end up, not the blowing of the wind, because we all have the same wind blowing on us, but it's those people that determine where they want to be, plus constantly chip and change and learn as they go through, that are the ones that change their lives. Now, the people that aren't successful, according to Tony, are the ones that are constantly living in the past, or the ones that are constantly living in their future and nothing's ever good enough for right now, and there's always that next thing on their list that they're working towards, which is taking them away from their power, which is this present moment. So, some of the things that I talked about earlier in this video about the hand and looking at your hand and looking at the flowers and feeling the wind and listening to the ocean and having meaningful connections and training and eating well is all things that bring you into the present moment. You know, focusing on what you have rather than what you don't have helps you be on the present moment. Spending time with people that add value to your life and listening to things like this is what helps create presence in your life. And letting go of that reptile chatter mind and, you know, allowing your observing self and your intuitive self and your logical self to take over is so much more powerful. So, you know, these are habits that I've developed very, very slowly. Like, I've condensed a lot of stuff into this podcast today, but the reality is this is 10 years worth of learning, 10 years worth of reading, 10 years worth of talking to amazing people. The beautiful thing about my life is I attract so many legends to me because I am putting out this sort of vibe and because it's how I'm feeling, and I'm attracting people that feel the same way. Like just yesterday, for example, I talked to a couple. Now, this couple works as contractors, and they take people to Alaska and the Antarctic on canoeing trips. Like, who the hell gets to talk to people like that? That's their life, and they do that 6 to 7 months a year to make a living. They've had financial planners in their lives for 20 years, and they're absolutely kicking ass, even though they only earn about $80,000 a year combined. They've got enough for deposit for a property. They're absolutely crushing it in shares. They're living in Guatemala right now. When I talked to them, they'd literally got out of the water and had been surfing all morning. Now, you know who you are, guys. I don't like to mention too many names when I'm talking on the podcast because of privacy, especially if you guys haven't signed up yet for our business, which you haven't. But I know you'll be listening to this over there, and I just wanted to say, like, thank you for coming into my world and bringing all that goodness on the phone yesterday. And I can't wait to continue that journey together. You know, I got to catch up with another guy recently on the other side of the scale. He's one of Australia's top 30 wealthy business people. Went and caught up with him for a coffee in Mooloolaba. That ended up a chat for 3 hours we spent together while he was up here with his family. And, you know, he wants us to help support him by building credible properties in Brisbane in bulk so that he can start to transfer some of the income that he's earning from his business, which is, again, one of the top 30 businesses in Australia, to create a passive income stream and recession-proof himself in the future and create a retirement strategy. Now, like, when you're putting out the best version of you, amazing things happen. And the way to put out your best version is to understand deeply what's important to you and let go of all the other stuff you're holding on that doesn't serve you, and to just start living those values daily. So I challenge you to sit down tonight or this weekend or with your partner and, you know, admit and accept that you might not be feeling like your best self right now, or maybe you are. And, like, if you are, massive high five, because I know what it takes to feel that way. It takes work and it takes staying in that constant flow state to be there. And not every day is like this, you know. I might not be able to show up tomorrow the way that I'm showing up now, but I'm grateful that in this moment I can be. But, you know, making decisions towards your values, which effectively means just replacing habits that are no longer serving your highest and best self with habits that do. You know, little things. Maybe not drinking as much. Maybe, you know, having a sleep routine rather than watching TV until the second you go to bed. Maybe, you know, turning off all the alerts or setting your phone so that, you know, during certain hours it looks like this and during other hours it's not distracting you. You know, turning your phone off, leaving it at home. Training, eating better, like meditating, doing some yoga, doing some Pilates, doing something that challenges you like boxing is for me right now. You know, doing the things that you enjoyed when you were a kid again, man. Like going back to the old days and what made you feel good before all of this heaviness came over the top of you in your life, and before all the responsibilities of jobs and businesses and saving and achieving something and looking after your family and looking after yourself. And fuck, man, like how many hats do we have to carry around these days to just function? Like, you know, I think about my parents and my grandparents. Those guys were pretty much just cool, hanging out with their friends all weekend and just getting blind. And they seem to be pretty happy, you know what I mean? Like, they weren't helicopter parenting me all day, every day. Like, take some of the pressure off. Like, turn the TV off with the kids is what I've started to do, and let them play and let them figure out how to be creative and play again, and spend meaningful time with them where you're present. You're not thinking about your past, your future. You're not thinking about work. You're not thinking about what's next. And be there with them and wait for their world to change. And when they ask you to read a book or go to the beach, or just talk to you, be there with them. I heard something so beautiful recently from Tiger Woods in his documentary where he said he couldn't remember a time in his life from the age of 6 where when he wanted to speak to his dad didn't get down on his knees and speak to him at his level. And that's just so beautiful. Little things change your life for the better. And when your life changed for the better, momentum builds and results flow. As Michelle Obama says, you can have everything that you want in your life, but just not all at the same time. So figure out what it is that's important to you. Recognize that you're not going to have it immediately. Accept whatever's going in your life right now is your reality, and that you're supposed to be there. And as the person that I watch on yoga, do yoga with every morning, which is the chick and the guy from Boho Beautiful, incredible. Everyone will appreciate that channel, if you know what I'm saying, once you see it. It is just really good stuff. But she says every morning, surrender, accept where you are, and recognize that you are exactly where you are supposed to be right now, regardless of how you're feeling. Otherwise, you wouldn't be going through it. This is a temporary state, and you can begin to change it. So I wish you all the absolute best. If you haven't already done so, if this podcast doesn't deserve a 5-star, stop listening, man, because this is as good as I'm probably ever going to get in my life. I just feel like I'm on fire today, even if I do say myself. Please subscribe to the podcast. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Come and like us on Facey. Follow us on Instagram. For those of you who are serious about getting financially free with someone that is already there, it's time to come over to the channel at some point in the future. The channel, I mean my website, pumpedonproperty.com. Book a free strategy session in with myself and my brother Simon. Let's talk about where you are and where you want to be. Let's talk about honestly and openly with compassion what's holding you back. And let's make a plan for this year so that you can go and kick ass on your own. Like I said, I spend time with 40 to 60 people a month on those sessions. About 15 to 20 of them decide to work with us, and we only choose to work with 6. So it is a session where I'm going to give as much as I can to you, so that if you want to do it on your own, you can kick ass. And if you decide that you'd like to work with us and we choose you as one of those 6 or 7 clients, then that would be amazing as well. So I wish you truly all the best. Have an epic day, whatever you're doing. Share this with someone who you think would get some inspiration from this, or that needs to hear it. Someone that's in a darker place than you are. Help someone out, pay it forward. I wish you all the best, and I'm so grateful for your time and your attention on today's video. See you guys.